Hello everyone, I'm Neeraj Mulani, the Director of Community at Product NX, and today we are starting our Spotlight series where each month we'll be talking with founders as we dive deeper into what they're doing, their aspirations behind starting up, the challenges they're facing, and much more. And to kick things off in the Spotlight series, I'm joined by Padma Subramanian, founder of Fyrii. Thank you for joining in, Padma. How are you doing?
Thank you, Neeraj. It's great. Doing wonderful. It's a wonderful Saturday out here. So enjoying it.
Awesome. So let's start with a simple question for the uninitiated. Could you spend a couple of minutes explaining what is?
Fyrii is a developer ecosystem platform. It's a Web3 based developer ecosystem platform. So the main thing is enterprises will be able to build a developer partner ecosystem, enable that ecosystem, co-create and co-sell with that ecosystem. So that is a platform. On the other side, what it also provides is for developers to be able to partner with multiple companies and compose solutions, compose applications, utilize their skill set to provide services, training catalogs, and so on, and be able to commercialize and monetize all of this on the platform.
Right. That's fascinating, but I'd love to put the microscope on the beginning of your journey here. What about this particular segment intrigued you? Why did you choose to solve this particular problem?
Sure. Actually, it was a very interesting origin story. We did have a consulting company before this called Pickwick Consulting. And we did work with multiple companies on their regional expansions. We worked on go-to-market strategy. One of the key areas that most companies really struggled with was building up that developer ecosystem. If you look at the opportunity itself, companies like Salesforce and Microsoft talk about how there's for every dollar that a customer spends on their solution, there's about $6 to $9 that can be spent on the ecosystem. But today, there's just about $4 that's spent on the ecosystem. And the key reason for that is because there is really no way in which they can organize a completely disparate kind of a partner ecosystem. So people have tried various things, right? So you have companies that have this community aspect to the developer ecosystem. They have a champions program. They motivate the developers in that way. And others have come up with some kind of a marketplace just to see if they can showcase the applications and commercialize it. But there is really no platform that says, let's bring all of these developers in connection with the enterprises, be able to co-innovate, co-create, and co-sell with all of these developers. The other key thing that really hampers it is the fact that there is less of a trust. There is the ownership model as such from a Web 2 perspective is not very clearly defined. So just to give you an example, let's say there is a use case where Emirates Airlines has exposed an API and multiple developers have picked that up and developed various solutions to it. The ownership and the revenue share is not really automated, which means that this has to be done manually. There needs to be a whole team members who are working with these developers, motivating them, managing them, ensuring that revenue share happens, things like that, right? There is no single platform that brings all of it together. And that's what we are building with Fyrii.
Right. And what would you say were those early days of building Fyrii like?
I think the early days for Fyrii was similar to most of the really small startup companies that get started, right? You need to find, so this was co-founded by me and my brother. My brother's the CTO. We needed to find a small cohort of team members who would believe in us, who would work with us. So that was the first step. And we were very fortunate. We were able to find a pretty good development team, a team that believed in us, that would work with us. And they are the early founding members of Fyrii. And they're still with us. They are, in fact, we consider that the co-founding team, right? It's not just about me and my brother, but it's about all of us co-founding this together. So that was one of the first things that we faced. The second was investment. We did go in with founders investment, which means we put in money. We believed in it so much that we did put in money and we started. But there comes a time when you need more influx of cash and you need to grow the company. And finding that first investor was the next hurdle we faced. But again, we were very fortunate. Our first investor was a Sibylla Masters Fund. And again, very fortunate that we found them because they still support us. They advise us, they're part of my board and have been with us, helping us through various aspects, from helping me redesign a pitch deck to putting together that go-to-market strategy, making those critical introductions that expand the company out. They've been with us through. The second investor we got was Cachet Ventures. Again, this is a Bangalore-based VC. He's been with us. He's helped us quite a bit as well. And then now we just the third investor, and very fortunate because they've been with us for the past few months, where we've had regular calls on sales strategy, and they've guided us through the sales strategy, and we've gained quite a bit from that experience. Now, I think the biggest support that we got was from Product 10X, and I was pretty sure that you're going to bring that up. Suresh and I met quite coincidentally. I did find him on LinkedIn. I reached out to him. We had a conversation. We had worked in the same company so many years back, Bosch, actually. And so we connected really well. And he joined us. We became a portfolio company of Product 10X. And Anand and Jogi have really helped us put together the go-to-market strategy, helped us with product strategy, the release planning efforts that we are going through right now. And that's, again, another great thing that's moving us to the next growth stage.
Yep, thank you for addressing that. That definitely was one of the things I wanted to touch upon. But again, on the way, especially as somebody who's starting up a new startup, like you mentioned, obviously there are three investors now. There's Product 10X, so there is good validation of the startup progressing, and there is investment, which is obviously very richly deserved for the great work that you guys are doing. But before that first investor comes in, especially from a founder's lens, how do you keep all the things that you are trying to do until that validation comes from the market?
Right. I think the biggest thing that we decided as a team was that we will not go raise funding until we have a product and we have a paying customer. So this was a metric that we laid out for ourselves. And the reason was we have been investors ourselves, and it is very, very difficult to go in and take a bet on something that's just an idea or a concept. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm not saying that people don't do it. But as investors, we've always been shy to take that plunge when it is just a concept. So we said, let's come out with a product. Let's come out with at least one paying customer before we go out and raise money. And so we were laser focused on that. We said, what is that MVP that will get us the first customer? So we went ahead and we built that MVP with that small team that we had, laser focused. We worked 7 days, literally 24 hours, I think, burnt every midnight oil there was to come out with that MVP. We did get our first customer, our first paying customer, and that kind of paved the way for the investment. From there, we've literally been laying out those milestones, right? Now we have the milestone of our summer release. Summer release is going to be in August of this year. With that, we have a pretty nice goal. We will reach about 15 customers from an enterprise perspective. We will have about 2,000 developers on the platform. Our blockchain MVP will be ready as well. And so we laid out those metrics. And this time around, because we already have 3 investors and 3 venture capital firms as investors, now what we have is we do have a couple of investors who are interested. We have meetings scheduled on the calendar for September as soon as we reach our milestones to show them and unlock the next investment. So literally, that's the way we built this company. We've been very clear about what we can achieve, the milestones along the way, and what metric will lead us to the next. And I sincerely believe that's an easier way and an easier journey to embark on than having any kind of a unicorn or any kind of lofty goal out there. Not that we don't have that. We sincerely believe that this can be a unicorn. We sincerely believe it is $1 billion market. If you look at our TAM, it's about $2.2 trillion, and our serviceable, obtainable market is about $1 billion. So yes, that's where we are going. However, along the way, having those milestones that you reach.
That's actually very fascinating because you touched upon something that is quite crucial for a lot of founders to be able to have that VC lens as well. What is that thing that VCs are looking for in the startup? And to be able to make those conscious decisions and constraints to your startup in those early days obviously brings a lot of focus to the work that you guys are doing. So obviously, when you made that conscious decision of raising money only when you have a paying customer, but not many founders end up doing that because the need for capital is immediate for many. And how do you get over that need for capital in those early days?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm totally aware of that, right? It's not that every founder starts off the way we did. We started off with our consulting company. We had paying customers in the consulting company. We had a revenue that we were getting. We were able to fold in some of that. We were able to take our portion out. We were able to, and not everyone has that. So one of the other things I think, if you are going out to raise money with your concept, then one of the things I would definitely say is it's good to go out and do a validation. We spent some money on validation early on, and we did reach out to both developers on the one hand, enterprises on the other, and made sure that what we are building is something that the market really needs. You don't want to build something and then think that there is a market to it. So it is important to do that validation. Once you do that validation, I think it's also important to put together like a prototype. It's not too difficult to do a prototype. So I think building out that prototype, building out that co-founding team that's rounded out is an important thing as well. Once you have that, then you can take the next step and go out and pitch to. There are enough angel investors, pre-seed funds today that you can go out and reach out and pitch to and get that money unlocked. It depends on the circumstances that you have as a founder, right? I don't believe in just going and getting money, putting it in the bank and working on it. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do it now. Now I would, because there is enough validation that we've been able to achieve. Typically for a startup, I think about 18 to 20 months from inception is really spent on fine-tuning, changing, making sure that there is that market fit, the concept market fit, before you can even say that you moved on to the next stage. And as an investor, having your investment locked up while that concept market fit is being achieved is not something that most investors want to do. And which is why we made that conscious decision of saying that concept market fit and that fine tuning, the transformations that we need to do along the way, let's not waste investor money. We will be capital efficient and try and do that on our dime. So that's what we did. The other thing is capital efficiency. And today I actually do spend some time advising other founders. I'm part of this organization called May3 and a few organizations where I wouldn't say advise, but share my experiences with other founders. And one of the key things I feel is capital efficiency is important. And that's what we did. While building out, we made this conscious decision of saying, in order to keep this capital efficient, we will go out and find those efficient resources, be it people in the US, in India. We now have a team that spans US, Mexico, India, and Romania. But each hire that we made was capital efficient, was not someone we can do without. They're extremely valuable resources. And they are people who believe in us just as much as we believe in them. And so that is important. Just don't go hire people because, then it's too expensive. Instead, make sure there is a culture fit, there is a belief fit before you go out and hire people. And that makes your company capital efficient as well.
Right. And you touched upon, the founding team as well as the building the rest of the team. It is important to obviously spend time on something like that because it is of that much importance. But how do you juggle that while building a product as well? What takes precedence? How do you go about finding that right balance in those early days? And also, you touched upon culture. How do you instill that in an organization that is still growing, still getting those first few hires?
Yeah, first of all, in terms to answer your first part of the question, one of the things that between Ben and I, we decided was Ben's totally focused on the product and the technology, and I'm focused on the business. And in terms of the hiring, I think both of us are very much involved because when you're hiring a technical team, skill set is important, culture is important, fit is important. And so both of us have been completely involved in hiring people and making sure that team works together. Now, in terms of the culture, I would say it's just about understanding that every person who's joining a company is a person. They have their personal circumstances, they have their professional circumstances, and they have other constraints and other situations that define them. So we've been very flexible, right? We're a completely remote organization, which means we do not have a real office. Now, it is a different thing that we have looked at giving a few memberships for WeWork and other things where people want to go out and work in a different place. But otherwise, we are a completely remote organization. And we've been very respectful of each other's time. So we have people from Romania and we've understood what works for them in terms of the timing. We understand what works for each person. We have interns. Our product lead is a student and he's been with us from inception and he's amazing. But then we know that if he has exams, he's got to focus on his exams. So we've been very flexible as an organization. Now, will this change as we grow? We are already seeing that we have to be a little more formal in a few settings because we're growing. But then having that flexibility, understanding people's situations and bringing that into your collaborative culture, I think has helped us grow to where we are. And today I can tell you that each person who joins the team, it's still a small enough team that we are able to have that direct relationship. At least one of us is able to have that direct relationship. And that is, again, has been very important to us. Now, yes, when we grow beyond this, are we going to have that? Or can we instill the same culture that we brought into the organization to the next set of people who go out and hire for the organization? That's where I think we are focused on right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that's quite heartening to hear that people first approach are still being adopted in those early days of high growth driven startups. And what I want to focus on now is obviously that journey of building a startup is never short of challenges. So what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during this journey?
So some of the biggest challenges I think we faced early on was just the focus on that market validation, focus on what should or should not be part of that MVP without scope creep, and understanding that every customer that we speak to is bringing out their ideas and objectives. So parsing through that was one of the first, I wouldn't say challenge, but one of the first work that we had to do. In terms of the challenge itself, I think the first challenge we faced was really the investment. We were really worked up about, will we be able to go and unlock that? It did happen. It happened very well. It happened very smoothly. But yes, there was that angst about, will we be able to raise enough to grow to the next stage? And since we never raised more than what we need to get to the next stage. We never raised insane amounts which will keep us for 24 months, 36 months. There was always that, should the strategy change? I definitely think that strategy will change over the next release, because we have enough to go and raise enough for 24 months in the next investment. So investment really has been something that has been challenging, both from a strategy perspective and also understanding who are the right set of investors, because we've been very fortunate till now, but it has been not out of design. So Masters Fund has been an extremely supportive partner. So has Right Side Capital Management and Cashier Ventures, but just having that set criteria that we want from an investor, that's something that as a rule book we are just forming. And I think that was one of the challenges. Who do you want on your board? Because initially as an entrepreneur, that's the one of the things you want to do is go and get those checks, which is good, I won't say it's wrong, but then just getting the checks is not enough. Getting the right checks, getting the right people to support you, I think that is more important. And so just fine-tuning that strategy, making sure that we are reaching out to the right investors, and also having a pipeline. So today I realize, and I have now a pipeline that will get me to Series A, maybe even Series. I have investors who are interested at each stage, and we've actually told them when we will be able to reach what they want. But then laying out that strategy was challenging in the beginning.
And how do you, as an individual, make sense of these uncertain times, especially from that founder's lens?
Yeah, that's an evolving strategy, I should say, because till now we had this thing that, okay, we are going to reach the next milestone and go and raise about $5 to $10 million, which will be our Series A, to get us to the next stage. And we had a timeline. We said around the October-November timeframe, because our release would be out. We would have enough in terms of the annual recurring revenue for us to go and raise the next stage. Now, with the uncertain times, one of the strategic decisions we are trying to take is, should we pull it in? But if we pull it in, which means we won't reach the milestones we would need to go get the $10 million check. So can we do with, say, a $5 million check or a $7 million check? And what does that look? What do the metrics look in order for us to unlock that? So that strategy is still evolving. And as the market evolves and we understand what is happening in a global, making sure that we can evolve our strategy, that's where my focus has been right now.
Got it. And what would you say were some of the learnings throughout this journey for you as an individual?
I think the first thing, I have this tendency of looking at a leader of an organization, a CEO of an organization, as a servant leader, right? A person who is responsible for the well-being of the organization, a person who's responsible for every person who touches or who's involved, who's a stakeholder of the organization. And that is something that I've learned is the most important thing. That when people now come to me and talk about, oh, it's great that you co-founded this organization, you're the CEO of the organization, I sit back and every day I think, am I worth being the CEO? Am I doing everything so that tomorrow, if we exit or as we grow, am I making sure that the team is growing with us? And that growth is from a career perspective. That growth is from a personal situation perspective. That growth is from a commercial perspective. So am I really representing each and every member of my organization and helping them grow? It is only then that I would call myself worthy of being the CEO of the organization. So that I did have it while starting the organization, but it evolved and it was a learning process. And today I feel very strongly about this aspect of a leader, where a leader is a person who can sit back and promote people, who can help people grow, who's responsible for people's growth. And that is something that I think was a great personal learning experience for me in this whole process.
Yeah, I think that's a very intriguing perspective to have. Like you mentioned, the leader is also responsible for not just for the company's growth, every individual's growth that touches the organization. And to be at that vantage point and then look forward for the organization, what would you say are the aspirations for Fyrii and what does success look like for you guys?
Sure. In terms of our aspirations, we want to be known as the Web3 developer ecosystem platform. And that is our aspiration. In terms of success, what does success mean for us? It means different things from different perspectives. But one of the key things is growing Fyrii to be that Web3 dev ecosystem platform that globally. So having enterprises globally, having developers globally on their platform is something that's how I would say we would be successful. In terms of exit, I don't know right now, but we hoping that we will be able to grow it to $1 billion company at some point. And the market definitely is there. The total addressable market is over $1 trillion. The obtainable market is over $1 billion. So I think there's enough opportunity for us to grow.
Certainly, and I think there are definitely early and very well-deserved signs that you're progressing towards that. And I'd love to close out with a question that I believe will really help our community members at large. What is your advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs?
Sure. And I'll answer that in two parts, right? One, for any entrepreneur, people have literally looked at entrepreneurship as the big thing. People have looked at it with colored glasses, thinking it's wonderful. I can tell you that it is very challenging. It's very difficult, and you need to get into it only if you believe that you will go through the ups and downs and have that resilience to continue the grit, to continue working on it, put blinders on and continue working on what you believe in. Because there's going to be a lot of, and there's going to be so many times when you'll sit back and think, what did I do to myself? I was working in pretty corporate jobs before I started my consulting company and then this. And there have been so many times when I've sat back and said, I didn't have to do this. What was I thinking? So it is important to make sure that you have that grit and that resilience. And you have that personal capacity, because it's not going to be an easy walk in the park. Now, for women entrepreneurs specifically, I think it comes with a lot more in terms of challenges. I think there is an unconscious bias, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. There is an unconscious bias when you're sitting across the table, be it from a customer, be it from a partner, be it an investor. You have to work twice as much as a woman entrepreneur than as a male entrepreneur. That's a sad part of where we live today. I'm hoping that when my daughter comes and sits on a seat like this, she already is, it'll be different. And Masters Fund is, the investors are women. And they had a very nice advice to give me, which I think is something that all women entrepreneurs should understand. It's easy to say, I want to go fight it. You can go fight it when when it is in your face injustice. But what happens is, in many cases, is it's very unconscious. It's not that the person wants to think of you in that way. It's just lingering. So it's very difficult to fight that. So what they said was, yes, work twice as hard, because once you convince that person sees you, not only you differently, but other women entrepreneurs differently. I think it is very important to say, I will leave no stone unturned, so that if I make that change, I'm not making that change just for myself, I'm making that change for the community. That's one. The second thing is, there are enough and more communities out there that will help you. I'm part of 3 different women entrepreneur communities. One is May3, one is Women in Cloud, Women in Tech. So we are in multiple communities, and those communities have helped me quite a bit. There is a sisterhood. There is definitely a need and want to help each other out. So go join those communities, help yourself. because once you know that your back is covered, you feel stronger.
I'm sure all our community members will find that really insightful. And thank you for the amazing work that you're doing, Padma, in your own individual capacity as well as along with Fyrii. And I'm sure there are great things lying ahead.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. It's a pleasure talking to you. And as I said, Product 10X is our partner, has helped us quite a bit, continues to help us grow. So really looking forward to being part of this community.
Thank you so much for taking on the time today and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.